Kimbo, aka the traveling chafing queen.
Sexy. Sustainability.
Meditate, masturbate, medicate.
All right.
You are now listening to Kimbo.
Hello, 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 everyone out there. Welcome back to another episode of Kimbology. It's your girl Kimbo here, twerking on your daddy's couch, but instead, I'm twerking with my friend Penny here today. I'm really excited because we have a great episode in store for you guys. We have a great conversation, and I'm really excited because our backstory with me and Penny here, Penelopé. She was a student of mine back when I was teaching pole. Back in the day, and she also is a brilliant floral artist, and she often would have flowers with her and everything. And so I was just like, I just like connected with you though, for real. I always connected to you, and the flowers just added to it, and so I ended up calling her Flower, and it's just, and then like we reconnected recently, and I'm so excited to sit down and chat and just learn all about what you do and what your business and. Yeah, I'll let Penny kind of introduce themselves. So yeah.
I'm Penny, Penny or Penelopé. Penny is my birth name, but Penelopé is my chosen name. I go by she, her. I am a psychic and florist and meditation teacher.
Yes.
I have a business called Jupiter Botanical, and we're in my studio currently in Wicker Park.
It's beautiful here, y'all.
In the Flatiron Arts Building. I've been here 2 years now, and
2 years now.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
wow,
on
time
year
flies.
2.
Yeah.
I do all different events here and workshops and things like that.
The
So
beautiful flowers.
This is where it all goes down.
You know, period.
The
like
readings,
just the vibe.
the floral studio. It's kind of I call it an experimental floral and meditation studio. So I just like to kind of experiment with all the things that I do.
Well, this space,
Yeah.
like the Flatiron Arts Building in
Yeah.
Wicker Park, is iconic for having like artists come in and I think you even said like the Matrix was written here.
Supposedly, legend has it was written in the basement of this building.
Yeah.
It's one of the oldest, I feel like one of the oldest arts buildings in the city. I've been coming here since I was in like high school, and if these walls could talk.
When she told me that story, and then she said that the real world was like recorded across the street.
Real
I was
world
like,
Chicago across the street.
Yeah.
It's iconic. It's been an arts building for over 30 years. And
that's amazing. That's
hopefully it continues to be. There's definitely the vibes changing, but I'm holding it down.
Yes. Yeah. I honestly, when you shared your history with this space and how you came to have this space become yours, I was really like inspired and I'm inspired by you in general. Like everyone, guys, like I just can't wait. We're gonna dive into this because I really feel like there's a lot of questions around the world that you're in and what you do and your expertise, and so I wanted, instead of us just scrolling through Instagram and just looking at these prompts that we see every day now, I want to ask you obviously this is all from your lens, right?
Yeah.
But let's just start with, you identify as a psychic, right?
Yes. So I've been psychic my whole life, but actually we're all psychic. I like to say that.
So
everybody is psychic. We've all had psychic experiences. But I will say that my psychic experience was nurtured when I was younger. Most people are shut down when they're younger. So I grew up with my Ukrainian grandmother. My father's Ukrainian, first generation. So my grandmother's from Ukraine, and then my mom is Mexican. And so both sides are pretty mystical, and they've just naturally nurtured my intuitive abilities. My grandma specifically, though, this Ukrainian grandmother I grew up with, like I feel like I owe so much to her.
Was she everything? What was her vibe?
She was everything. And my mom too, though. My mom's Native American, so she has this naturally in her as well. Talk about, herbs. She loves it. She's all about the herbs. But they're both have like farm roots. Like both sides of my family were farmers. But my grandmother, she had to flee World War II. She had to flee Ukraine during World War II. So her intuition, I believe, is really what helped her stay safe. and get to the States. So she wanted to activate that in me really young. And I would wake up every morning and go down to her room, and she would make me tell her my dreams. So dreaming is one way of being psychic. And so she activated like the dreamer in me really young, because I would wake up and I couldn't wait to tell her all about my dreams.
And you can remember your dreams? You have vivid dreams?
Vivid dreams,
Same.
yeah. And so dreaming is one way of being psychic. There's intuition, which is like how you just know things like out of the blue. There's no sort of tangible way of knowing. It's just a knowingness that is actually activated in the cerebral cortex of your brain usually. There's also other intuitions, like there's a intuition in your voice, there's intuition in your body as an oracle, like that gut intuition.
Would you say more feminine energy, or femmes identify more with their, because you know that's a whole thing, like, oh, your gut feeling or whatever.
Feelings, I think are a lot more feminine, but the crown knowingness, a lot of men have that, that's for sure.
Okay.
And then there's clairvoyance, which is actually what I studied, and that's seeing energy, mental image pictures. So it's a little bit more, so a reading with me is usually very clairvoyant. And the astral realm is a whole other thing.
I know.
It's like, there's so much that goes on there.
And like, y'all, we have so much to cover.
Yeah.
Because again, she's like, I can nerd out about this, Kim. Like, let me. So we're gonna try our best, and we're both Gemini rising, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Like,
but okay, so the astrology piece, my father actually nurtured that. He is.
And he's Ukrainian, right?
He's Ukrainian, but he's like an intellect. Like he's a electrical engineer. He's an Aquarius, and he saw me, walking in his mom's footsteps and becoming this very into the mysticism when I was really young. I remember I had to be between 8 and 10 years old, and I went to Barnes and Noble one day, and I saw a palm reading book, and I was like, Mom, can I get this book? Like, I was so excited about it. And she was like, I don't know, you're gonna have to ask your dad first. And so she didn't let me get it, which made me want it even more. And I went home and I asked my dad, like, Dad, there was this book at Barnes and Noble, like, Mom wouldn't let me get it. And he was like, I don't know about all that, because he is like very psychic, but he doesn't like to like talk about it. It's like it's just a thing that like we all are, and he knows that intellectually. But he was like, if you're into that kind of thing, there's definitely some truth to this. And he gave me, I actually have it here, he gave me this vintage astrology book of his, which broke it down to what all the planets mean, all like into the whole chart system. And that was like my gateway. In dreaming and astrology were like my early days of tapping into my psychic abilities, which everybody's psychic. We've all had these experiences. So,
but it seems as if your upbringing, like, definitely they encouraged it, and it was celebrated as opposed to like pushed away, or like don't do that, or like which I think is lovely that you had this encouraging upbringing from your roots of embrace your psychic ability.
For sure. For the most part, it was very normalized, which I'm grateful for. At some point, they were like, okay, you're a little too much. Like,
reel it back, bitch.
Yeah.
Reel it back. Okay.
You're a little too far out, and then they would kind of like, just try to bring me back to earth.
Well, okay, so when it comes to being a psychic and what you do and everything, you have this really beautiful story, which Penny told me this a while back, was give an example to like when this part of like this pulling that you felt kind of just worked out for you. And I'm leading towards that one story where you're the one in Istanbul. So, because in a sense of like you started your psychic school, right?
Right. So then, okay, I grew up really psychic, therefore it was just kind of like wild within me all the time. And it's a beautiful thing, but it's also something that I really wanted to learn more about what it meant. I wanted to intellectualize it. That's a Gemini thing. We have Gemini rising. We want everything to make sense. So I like to...
Does it make sense?
Yeah, make it make sense.
Make it make sense.
I'm a Pisces sun though, so it's like, okay, if it doesn't make sense, but also tell me why. So there's many psychic schools that I went to, but there was specifically I believe it was in 2000. I started going there in like 2012, and which astrologically was a big time on Earth of a great awakening. And I was kind of that was my first, not my first, but it was like I was having lots of psychic downloads, and I just needed to know what was going on. So I found the psychic school, and they were doing 6-week classes of all different things, like mostly teaching you meditation, like a psychic meditation, which is very clairvoyant, very visual. And I was like, okay, cool. They're teaching you all about what it means to be psychic, how to protect your energy, how to ground yourself. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take these like baby steps. But I know my spiritual journey is very, in astrology, we would say very ninth house. It's a journey. I always wanted to travel. I always wanted to go to India, get my yoga teacher training. So I they had a 6-month clairvoyant training programs, and I was like, no, that's not for me.
6 months?
Yeah, I was like, that's not for me. That's so intense. I'm not supposed to be a reader in this lifetime. Like, I really did not think I was going to be a reader.
Really?
I thought I was going to be like a yoga teacher and like, just traveling the world, living in India for the rest of my life or something. I don't know. That was what I wanted to do at that point.
It's so funny because I'm just like, yep, I can relate. Yep.
So I took all the 6-week courses that they offered, and
where was these schools?
This one is no longer here. There was a brick and mortar in Lakeview, but they closed. So there's schools all over though. There's more online schools and schools in like Hawaii and.
Well, how do you know? I mean, because I've just been on this kick of like cults and everything lately.
Yeah.
How do you know if it's like a real school?
So
or
I had a friend going there who I really looked up to.
Okay. So
I had known her since high school,
Gotcha.
and I was really inspired by her story.
Okay.
So I reached out to her first, and then she kind of like said hello to the psychic in me. She was like, "You're very psychic," and I was like, that's all you need sometimes is someone to see it in you.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay.
Well, how did you get to Istanbul again?
Okay, so as the story goes, I took the last 6-week class I took there so I booked my flight to India, and my family, like, we didn't really travel that much growing up. We went to like Texas, Mexico, Florida, local travels, but I really wanted to travel the world. Like, that was building up in me for so long. So I was like, okay, I've got my energetic psychic tools to protect me on this journey now, and I'm going to India. I'm getting my yoga teacher training, and that's it. I didn't really plan on like taking more classes at this school. I felt good about where I was at, but the last class I took was called Creating Abundance, and this is like one of my favorite stories to tell. And I now teach people how to activate their psychic abilities, and I mentor people. So this is a story that I tell in my mentorship program. So I'm not going to tell all of the juicy details, but I'll tell some good ones. The last class I took was called Creating Abundance, and my teacher, who's my favorite teacher of mine, came up to me and he said, "Penny, I want you to know what you're doing is a really big deal. You're not only clearing the energy of fear in general for your whole bloodline, but fear around travel and fear around money." Because when my family left the Ukraine, they never went back. So there was a fear of traveling in the ancestral lineage. So he just saw that in me. He just like read me, and I was like, okay. And he was like, it's a really big deal. So he said something really potent to me that I kept in my back pocket that I'll share with people. It's a big deal what he said to me. It's very psychic, but I was like, okay, I'll keep that in my back pocket. And I went to India, I went to Bali, and in Bali it was gets very spendy at some point, like, because things were so affordable. And I was like, oh,
Bali's amazing.
I had saved up a good amount of money, and by the time I was in Turkey, I was like down to my last dollar.
So you went from Bali to Turkey?
I went from India to Bali to Turkey, because I was like, if I don't leave Bali now, I'll never leave.
But why Turkey?
And I had a friend in Istanbul.
Gotcha.
This was my time where I was like, I'm going to any friends that are abroad, I'm going to just visit them. and she had been wanting to get pregnant for a long time, and she had just gotten pregnant. So I was in Turkey all alone.
And how old were you around this time?
I was in my Saturn return, which is between 27 and 30. I turned 28 in India.
Okay.
So your Saturn return is a very like pivotal moment in astrology. Right now, anyone who has Saturn in Pisces is in their Saturn return. My Saturn's in Sagittarius, so it was, you know, on point for me to be traveling. And Sagittarius is known to be the traveler, the philosopher. So it was right. I was right on track to be traveling and learning and teaching at the same time. But I was learning a lot, that's for sure. It was my first time out in the world. I was learning a lot about money, and I thought I had enough saved, truly. But then I found myself on a citrus farm in the south of Turkey by myself, and I was just in the middle of the world, and I was so in love with traveling. I was so like, I made a decision. I was like, I do not want to go back. So my Mars is in Taurus, and Kimbo is a Taurus, so she knows we can be very stubborn. Mars is how you take action, and it's your sex drive too. I was just like so turned on by this experience, you know, being out in the world for my first time. And making decisions is a really psychic, energetic shifts happen when you make decisions. So I fully decided I'm not going back. And after making that decision and remembering something that my teacher told me, I just sat back, and the next day, somebody posted on my Facebook page, and I didn't even have enough money to like fly back if I wanted to.
Yeah, like you literally were like, Kim, like I had like no money.
No money. I was
and
like,
you had
all
a
right.
reading.
Yeah.
And your reader said.
Well, it was what my teacher said to me before I left. He said,
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
He said something, and I was exactly in the moment that he said might happen, where I don't have any money.
Right.
And
then not to be fearful of it, right?
Yeah.
And like, don't worry.
Right. I'm clearing fear.
Yeah.
So I just was going to teach yoga. I was going to get a job online. I just trusted that when I made that decision, that's exactly what I was supposed to do. And then sure enough, the next day, I kid you not, someone posted on my Facebook wall, just an acquaintance of mine, big poster size photo of me from 3 years prior, a modeling job I had done that I never got paid for. I never got paid for the usage. I got paid for the shoot, and they said, oh, well, if we ever use it, we'll pay you. And they waited 3 years to use the image. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I had been on their case for about 2 years, and I never saw my face on their site or anything.
Right.
So she posted this, and she was just like, cool, like on my Facebook wall. And I was like, wait, what? And I looked on their website, my face was all over their site.
Gosh.
I took screenshots, and I sent it to the company, and I was like, I never got paid for the usage of this. And then 2 weeks later, I got another couple $1,000s. Like,
yeah,
I don't want to say the amount.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah,
but
you got
I got a lot of money.
Yeah,
you got enough to keep going.
Yeah.
So then all the energy was like very clear to me that
that you're on the right path.
That I'm on the right path, and that you can read energy, and you can trust, and you can work it in certain ways. So I was.
Yeah. Do you think that you kind of like something that you put out there for like that company was like, oh, we never used this image. Oh, let's use it.
Yeah.
And then it's like
divine timing. And
truly.
Also, being psychic is like a muscle. You know, it's like I had to develop that trust muscle with myself, which I did, and also just really stick to like what I truly wanted for myself. And then the universe really does conspire to help you out.
You think for the most part, like the universe is trying.
I think it's on your side, but you have to be on your side. You know?
Ooh, y'all heard that? That's deep.
Yeah.
Like we have to be on our side.
You have to trust that what you want actually, the universe wants you to have what you want.
Yeah, but the control freak in me, it struggles with and the patience with me.
And the controls of the world, like the fear that we all live in. Had I just for a moment stepped into fear and been like, somebody help me, I need to get out of Turkey, right?
Yeah.
Like, but instead of
But you were chill about it because you literally felt like, like when she told me that story of her like practically almost getting like, say, stuck in Turkey, because again, I didn't have enough money. You didn't have enough money to go back home.
Yeah.
But something just told you just to keep, just trust, right? And so then that happened. And yeah, I just thought that was really beautiful because we both have like Gemini rising, and we'll get into that too deeper because she's got my chart, and we'll kind of break that down too and stuff. But I feel like that part is just like that whole like not wanting to stay still and the exploring side of us, you know. So I just thought it was really beautiful because that happens to me sometimes too, where like I'll be like down and out, and I'll be like, man, I gotta pay rent or I gotta pay the taxes this month, and all of a sudden I'll get like a random check in the mail.
Right.
And it'll just, like, it's happened a handful of times with me. And I'm just like, we were sharing that story, and she was like, oh my God, one time I was in Istanbul, and I just like didn't remember. And then all of a sudden, like I was good, and I was like, so I just feel like I really related to you in that moment for sure. And
it
I
was
just like,
a lot of what I learned all came together, and it was just those 6-week classes. So then with some of that money that came in, I did invest in the Clairvoyant training programs, and then just becoming a reader was so natural for me and fun, and and then that's how I really like fully learned how to read energy and give psychic energy readings.
Okay.
And develop my clairvoyance.
Well, let's get into it,
So
right?
that's yeah.
Let's get into it because that was a beautiful story, and thank you for being so transparent and sharing that. I really want to get into like the common questions in a sense, just to kind of start from the say we're new to this world in a sense, and I really don't know anything about astrology and psychic abilities. So like, what's your birth chart mean? Why is that so important to a person's identity? And like, you know, like, what do you need to find out your birth chart? And like, what do you recommend?
Okay, so your birth chart is, I would say technically like a blueprint, like your soul's blueprint. It's like a map, and all you need is your birth day, time, and place. If you don't have the time, it can still get a general sense of what the planets were in when you were born. So that is what the birth chart shows, where the planets were when you were born. The time is important because it gives the rising sign, which is your first house. So all of the chart has 12 houses, which correlate to the 12 signs of the zodiac. So the first house has the first sign of the zodiac's energy, which is Aries. So it's like your body, your vibe. And that says, the first house says a lot about the whole chart. So it sort of sets the tone for the whole chart. And you'll hear, so there's a lot of different types of astrological study. And I was telling Kimbo that lately I find myself identifying as an intellectual intuitive and an intuitive astrologer. So I think it's because I like to intellectualize what it means to be psychic. And I want to know what the, I want to know more about the chakra system and the psychic anatomy and be able to speak to it intellectually instead of super like woo and in an ungrounded way. And then in the astrology realm of it all, there are so many ways of studying astrology. And the most modern way people study is called tropical astrology, and that's where you'll hear people say your sun, moon, and rising. That's tropical astrologers.
And that's like that's the most typical. You would say most people kind of go off of
most
that
people
one.
go off of that one, but there I think is a lot of value to once you feel grounded in one realm of study, open the doors to the other ones, because there's a lot of information in like Vedic astrology, which is also called Jyotish astrology, or
Vedic and Jyotish.
And sidereal.
Sidereal.
They're all very similar. I believe those three are quite similar. I'm not an expert in those. However, I've been looking into it more, and it's
the Vedic one, right?
Yeah, it's fascinating because I think ultimately it tells a story. Like your chart tells a story. It tells a story of your soul's evolutionary path. It tells a story about how you think, what challenges you might face, and also there's keys to your healing in just knowing about your natal chart. And then that's a natal chart. That's just what you're born into. And then there's like progressed chart. There's all these different kinds of charts. So as much as Geminis love getting heady and studying.
Tell me
and
things.
We are data collectors, like tell us everything and want to know all the things. I'm a Pisces sun, so I just also love to be intuitive about what actually resonates for me. So the charts might look quite different and in say tropical or Vedic astrology, but you can tune in with yourself and feel into, okay, well, which feels more like me, which I believe is what being psychic ultimately is about, deeply knowing yourself.
So that's, in general, the whole practice of it is learning more about
you. Yeah, and how you relate, how you communicate, what might be harder for you, and how can you make it easier for yourself, and maybe some. So evolutionary astrology is another way of studying astrology, and their big three is called the North Node, South Node, and Pluto. And that was actually one of my first ways of studying astrology, was evolutionary astrology. And that tells the story of like your past lives and then where you're going in this lifetime. And Pluto is your soul's driving force. So it's going to help get you there. And it's also saying,
would that be kind of like career based in the sense of like
it depends.
What your purpose is in this life?
Yeah,
I guess
I wouldn't say it's not always career based, but I did look at Kimbo's chart, and it's funny that she says that because her North Node is in her career house, and it's in Pisces, which is an intuitive.
Yeah, so like,
side. She just kind of like, you already read yourself.
Yeah, right. So
it's not like that for everyone, though. It's not just career. Some people's North Node might be in their 7th house, which is more about relationships for them.
Oh, okay.
It might be in their 6th house, which is more about health. They might be on a health path. Kimbo and I both have 10th house. Actually, we have 10th house Pisces. But my North Node's different.
So with the houses, right? Because I think that's where I kind of still, I'm happy you're here because I'm generally asking these questions, but I really truly am like curious myself.
Totally.
I want, that the Gemini rising, I want to know, right? So when it comes to the houses usually are in like a circle, right?
Yeah.
And you said it starts at Aries.
So 1 through 12.
1 through 12, yeah.
I have to say, when I was first learning astrology, the houses were what was the hardest for me to grasp, to fully understand. So the houses, I feel like once you really understand the houses, then it all starts to make sense. But yeah, the houses, the easiest way for me to explain it, to describe it, is that the houses they relate to each sign of the zodiac, so chronologically, but your first house will be a little different than everybody's. However, it will always have this Aries energy to it. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, all the way to the 12th house, which has Pisces energy. Pisces is the 12th sign of the zodiac. So I like to see the chart like a camera lens, or like a camera in general. And the body is like the first house. It's your body, it's your vibe, it's what you're working with. And then and
that's not correlated to like your sun at all, right?
No, but the sun, if we're thinking about it through the lens of like photography, the sun is the literal light. It shines a little bit on everything.
Oh. Yeah. That's why it's a camera lens.
Right. So wherever you have the sun.
And mine's in Taurus, so mine's
in Taurus in the 12th house.
Okay.
So wherever you have a planet is like the subject. And then the lenses, I see the houses like the lenses. It's like that's the
that you can change kind of.
Right. That's like what's being highlighted.
Okay.
Is that sort of story. And then there's blends to it all,
Mm-hmm. And again, I know this can get really heady, really deep. So I'm doing my best to kind of like get these like kind of more common questions just kind of cleared up, and like especially with your perspective and your knowledge, right? When it comes to the big question of Mercury in retrograde, right?
Yeah.
I understand that this is it's almost become like just conversational, kind of, so to speak, with people just in general. Like, I have a flat tire today. Oh, Mercury must be in retrograde. It's become this like, Mercury and Gatorade, Mercury and Bootsy Fade, you know, like, all these jokes, but like truly in the sense of the houses, right? Mercury, is that what we're talking about in the sense of like Mercury and retrograde? And like, can you break that down a little bit more for us?
I do want to say something that's important to know about the houses. And when you have somebody's rising sign, when you know, like, so Kimbo and I both have Gemini rising. Knowing just the rising will kind of give you the person, like 90% of the person's chart, because it sets the tone for their whole. So I immediately know that she has Sagittarius in her 7th house. So you immediately know that person's 7th house because it's the
because of the way it starts.
Yeah.
And, okay.
So say somebody had Pisces rising, their 7th house would be the opposite of Pisces, Virgo. It's always, so that sets the tone for the whole chart. With Mercury retrograde, okay, Mercury is the planet of communication. So when it retrogrades, what happens is that communication breaks down because it rules our communication, it rules our technology. So that's why retrograde just means it's slowing down. It's not in its typical orbiting pattern. So some people like me who were born during Mercury retrograde.
Yeah, because you were born during...
I was born during Mercury retrograde.
So it is actually a little bit different for you.
It's different for me in that Mercury retrogrades I'm kind of like, oh, everyone's at my speed now.
So it shifts. So
if you were born during Mercury retrograde, you kind of get to fly under the radar with all that.
So it might not be a bad thing.
That's why some people might be like, what are you talking about? It doesn't resonate. I'm actually like going through life easier. I will say in my experience, things do work out with more ease than some other people. However, you still hit the collective's energy of the freak out. So like maybe there's annoying traffic or something like this.
Okay.
Like
so like a byproduct.
Yeah, like power might still go out. I'm not in control of like the power. So I still am affected, but not as personally. Some people who have very, like you're ruled by Mercury. She's got a lot of Gemini energy. So
we're going to talk about my chart.
Wonder,
We'll do that right now in a little bit because I really want to like, because when she pulled my chart up, you know, you were just kind of like, what?
It's a fascinating chart. But also Geminis and Virgos, which Virgo rising.
Yes, Ricky's a Virgo. My partner's a Virgo rising.
So they're both ruled by Mercury.
We're both. Oh yes, and that's our communication.
Intellect, love, lots of information. Very, just very smart. Ability to take in a lot of information.
Yeah. Sorry, I have a mic here, and I was trying not to like have you guys hear the like zip. I feel like I was like touching it too much. So like just even our conversations, like thank you so much, Penny, because I feel like it you know, a lot of this is, it just takes, again, understanding, like you said, knowing. I love that you actually just said in the house, once you know they're rising, you can know what their opposite is.
Right.
Because then it'd be their 10th house. Or you'd be their 7th house, would be the opposite.
You'll know their opposite, and then you'll know pretty much the whole chart because what's on either side, right? What's on
of the actual.
So then you know they're
once you memorize, because you've memorized it at this point now, so you're like, okay, you know, like if people tell you.
But that's how it got easier for me to understand. Was like the polar opposite.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and which I love that because for me, you know, I want to learn more about this because I do feel very like, and would you say that, what are people that are like, astrology, that's bullshit, like I don't believe that shit, like whatever, like you have to also be
totally. I'm really happy you asked
it.
that because I've been challenged so many times with people who are like astrology, like, and how I like to, you know, phrase it to those people is that it's a belief system. You don't have to believe it, but I find it to be one of the truest belief systems, like, and compared, you know, I'm not going to compare it to a religion because it's not that, but the moon literally affects the tides. Like there is science and astronomy connected to
our menstrual cycles.
And our menstrual cycles and our emotions, and that's fact, that's science. So astrology is a belief system, but it has a lot of roots in science and astronomy. So
Science and astronomy.
right.
As opposed to, okay, and
Astrology.
Right.
Got it.
I had a high ass moment there. I was like, wait. There's different words, right? Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I don't, like, nobody has to believe in it.
Right.
However, if there's so much truth to it, I feel.
Now,
Yeah.
I'm happy you said that. I'm happy we're kind of, this
Yeah.
segue is good because is there such a thing as like bad and good astrologers in terms of skill sets and experience levels? Like, would you say that there are people that maybe use their power for like the wrong reasons or maybe leading people in other ways? Like, how do you know?
Yeah.
How do you go about,
With astrologers, it's again, there's so many forms. Like, you have to find who's really speaking to you, who's really resonating with you. For me, I prefer astrologers who are also looking at the big picture, like what's happening in terms of how astrology and social justice meet, and like why big things are happening on the world stage and how people can speak to that through the lens of astrology, is when I find astrologers to be like really legit, because they're looking at this bigger picture of it all, and it's not yes, there's a reason that we're in that picture. So astrology, I feel like you just have to find who speaks to you. However, with psychics, there's definitely good and bad psychics, because there are psychics who, so I read clairvoyantly, and I'm really grateful I learned this particular style of reading, which is clairvoyant reading. And so it's about seeing mental picture images from a place of neutrality. And when you can see energy, it moves and changes. However, there's readers out there that will read where they're trying to have power over you, and it's not neutral. And that is not a clean way of reading. So you have to be really...
Not neutral how? Like, it's biased, it's leaning,
it's like they want you to think that they have your answer.
Got you.
A good reader will always empower you and make you remember that you always have your own answer.
Okay. That it's in you.
It's in you.
But they're just there to help you see.
Help you see and remember and validate you. It's really good for validation, clarity, and to get energy moving. If you ever have a reader who you feel like the ick after, that's not a clean reading. That means that reader was probably trying to have power over you and trying to possibly energetically control you in some way. Ooh. Those readers usually read from like a third chakra place.
Your third chakra is your
solar plexus.
Solar plexus.
So that's like this guttural kind of feeling. And there's also those readers out there that are like mediums that channel energy, which is not always very clean either, and it's not healthy for them to be like. We've all seen these like very performative readers, right, where they're like, doing something like,
call me now for a free reading. Call me now. She's iconic, but at the same time,
not so clean,
right?
And not even good for that person.
Mama was acting.
Well, maybe not acting, but also maybe not completely aware of what they're doing.
Yes, there's like a whole doc on her or whatever. Apparently.
Oh, I haven't.
I haven't even like.
Seen it.
Like she was used in a way to. Again, the bad psychics, the good. That whole.
Yeah, I think
not neutral.
Once you develop an awareness that there's clean and unclean readings, you'll just know. Like because everybody's psychic, you will also know if that made you feel good or bad.
Okay. Right. And it's funny because now you're saying I want to kind of trajectory it towards because we had Penny to do my chart a little bit earlier, and I asked her if she can kind of like go through that, and I kind of want to show you all kind of like what, because I'm an open book, like this is my platform, and I'm very much like like I don't mind sharing my stuff with you guys. But when it comes to being psychic, you were asking me like, do I feel psychic?
Because her chart is actually very psychic. Like she's got a lot in her 12th house, which is the house of Pisces, which is Pisces is known to be the psychic, mystic, dreamer of the zodiac. Like it just comes effortlessly to Pisces.
So can we like pull up?
Okay, so that's a good way of explaining how the houses work and everything.
Yeah, so she pulled up. Oh, you want to take a break?
Yeah, take a break and then do it
Okay, so producer Rick says that we're gonna take a break, and then when we come back, we're gonna read my chart with Penny from Jupiter Botanical. Bye.
And then we'll just figure out how to.
Yeah.
Three, two, one.
And our sounds on?
And you're live.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Kimbology. It is time to read my birth chart with Penny from Jupiter Botanical. So you have, earlier she kind of like put together and I typed in like my birth chart, like where I was born, my date, the time and everything, and yeah, she has it up. So you basically were like, okay, when you opened it, you were like, oh, this is interesting. And I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah, she has, I mean, I know they can't see it, but her chart is very heavy in the 12th house, which is the house of Pisces. So as I was saying earlier, the houses will help you understand more of your chart and
It's okay, Rick Dog, producer Rick is doing his thing.
So she has what we call a stellium in Gemini, and the way that I read astrology in many different ways. That's why I consider myself an intuitive astrologer. But this particular chart system is called Placidus. There's also a whole sign chart system. Placidus will show you more of the nuance of the houses. And so she has a lot, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planets pretty much in her 12th and first house, which is a very psychic symbol.
Okay.
Most people only have, if you have more than 2 planets in the same sign, it's considered what we call a stellium. It's a rare placement, but it means that you're like extra that thing. And she has, and if you have anything at 0 degrees, you are also extra that thing, that sign. She has
My Gemini is like 0. It's like
0 degrees Gemini moon.
Yeah.
And she has Jupiter in Gemini, which Jupiter is obviously my favorite planet. That's what my business is named after. But Jupiter is, well, Jupiter and Earth. I love Earth. But Jupiter is the planet of luck, abundance, blessings. It's known to be the philosopher and teacher of the zodiac. And she has Gemini, so also Gemini. So Gemini moon, Gemini Mercury, and Jupiter in Gemini. That's big Gemini energy, like massive.
That's like a lot of Gemini energy.
That's very Gemini. But it being right here in it cusps both the 12th and the first house. To me, that says that's a very psychic placement. And she also has her sun in the 12th house, Taurus sun, and is it Venus? Yeah, Venus and Taurus in the 12th house. So 12th house is the house of Pisces, which means that I would not be surprised if Kimbo just like turns into psychic Kimbo, full embodiment someday.
Really?
Yes, because
Okay.
well, Taurus is fixed Earth, so it's naturally really grounded, which means that you can make your psychic abilities much more real, much more quickly than say somebody who didn't have an Earth sign placement. Luckily, I have Mars in Taurus, so that helps me ground and feel more real, where I have a lot of fire and air in my chart, where I had to like really learn how to ground and then make my psychic abilities real.
Interesting.
I feel like for you, there's probably a part of you that wants to intellectualize it as well, like I did because of the Gemini.
Well, I've always been like, this is a world that I'm curious about, right? But it's like, and it's funny because, to piggyback off of what you were saying about like the psychic, like the reading energy, reading people, I feel like ultimately I have safeguards that I kind of put up, or at least I live in a world of like, I don't want to know everything about you right away, because if I do, I'm going to have my biases about you. Like I might, not necessarily like, maybe I might treat you a little differently based off of, what I know. Like if like I'm a teacher and I teach pole dancing and I meet so many different amazing students, and I personally don't want to know. I'm a person when I meet you, I ultimately want to believe that you're a good person and that you're here to do good in this world. However, just living life, I'm realizing that not everybody is like that, which is really sad for me, because I can't think that way. I can't think of like these big head honchos up top controlling the planet that are like literally destroying our Earth, and and know that they are, but it doesn't matter because it just makes they're just like, well, I have my billions, and me and Penny were just talking about, we're like, what the fuck are you doing?
What are you gonna do with all those billions?
What are you doing with all that money? Like, even after I traveled the world, eaten everything I could possibly eaten,
like, what are you saving up for?
Yeah, like even like,
can you please just save the world now?
Can you give it some of that back? Like what the, like for me, I can't fathom, like for me, I don't need a ton of money. Like I love travel, I love to go. So it's like, at the end of the day, it gives me joy to see others, do things and uplift people and all that. So yeah, I guess I kind of maybe right now I feel like I push away my psychic abilities a little bit.
Well,
like
what I'm hearing is it's that neutrality piece. Like you're afraid you might judge somebody. Yeah. But actually, when I started to hone in on my psychic abilities, I was really able to step out of judgment and into neutrality, just to see the energy at neutral, and that I feel like so people with Taurus placements are known to be empaths. So you might naturally like feel something and then you don't know how to be neutral to that because you're like, I feel a bad energy.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a practice, it's a muscle, that's for sure.
Right. I think that that's very telling because again, like I feel as if I might know some things, but I also just push it away a little bit, or I'm like, you know,
that makes sense.
I try to be, again, because I try to live in this positivity, optimistic lifestyle of like, no, that's a good person. It's a good person. You're not a shitty person, even though everything else is telling me this person's shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So okay, well that's cool because I really wanted to kind of break that down a little bit. And so basically, she's saying I am a fucking crazy ass because my Gemini is everywhere. So of course that's why I can't sit down. I can't sleep sometimes. My brain just never, you know. And I'm very like, I love like explore. Like I want to do all these
all the things.
Yes, you know. I want to experience all the things.
Yeah.
You know. And yeah, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we're kind of similar in that
Right?
way. Yeah. So, and then in your evolutionary astrology path, your North Node, which is what your soul desires to evolve into in this lifetime, is in Pisces. So that's exactly what all this 12th house energy is like bringing you to anyways, like the activation is happening. And yeah, you've got Pluto in Scorpio. Pluto is the soul's driving force into that North Node. And so similarly with evolutionary astrology, the North Node and the South Node will always be polar opposites. So your South Node is your past life pattern. So it's like what you've come into this lifetime with both mastery and probably like your comfort zone. So for you, it's Virgo. And you're heading to Pisces.
Okay, because Pisces. Okay, so I'll admit to you right now, I still don't know what I'm talking about. But okay. Pisces to me still is, I can't quite grasp a Pisces.
So I feel like because I'm a Pisces sun, I get it. But I feel like Pisces are like the water Geminis.
Huh.
So Gemini is an air sign. Pisces is water. And they're both dual signs. Pisces is the symbol is the two fish swimming in opposite directions. Gemini is the twins. And so there's a very similar quality, but Gemini is like intellectual, it's air, it loves to be in the mind. Pisces is like more in the spirit, more in the intuitive, the water, the feeling realm.
Okay.
But you have that, you actually have it really big in you.
The spiritual,
the Pisces, yeah, because it's their 12th house and you have so many planets in your 12th house.
Literally, like she's gagging over my chart. She's
I know.
Like, Kim, this chart. I was like, what are you saying, girl?
It's like,
you know?
yeah.
So I'm excited, but it made me really excited because it was something that I like. You generally were just like, yo, bitch, this chart.
Yeah,
you know, she was
yeah.
kind of like hype about it, and you're like, she doesn't like. So for me, I want to understand what that really truly means, and then this is great. So I appreciate you breaking this all down. I appreciate you breaking down like the birth charts, like the, you know, again, Mercury being in retrograde. One thing though too, I was like gonna say, are you a true believer though of like our chart, like when it comes to like compatibility of our signs with like our partners or our like even with our careers or friendships, like
not
you know?
Really, because the chart is so nuanced, there is just so many reasons you might be compatible with somebody and not, vibe with them. At some point in your life, you might be, I remember I learned something once about a placement that I have in Cancer, and I was like, I'm never gonna get along with any Cancers. And then it was like just not true, you know? But so if you do that to yourself, you're also giving, you know, how we would say in psychic language, you're giving yourself almost a limiting belief picture where you don't get to expand into all the possibilities. However, you might be handling something for a certain amount of time, like perhaps people in their, and I don't know if this is totally true, but I have heard it. People who have Saturn and Pisces right now, they're going through their Saturn return. Saturn is known to be the leather daddy of the zodiac.
Come on, leather daddy.
The disciplinarian. He keeps you on your path. So he's not that fun, right? He's like very strict, restricting, and therefore people who are have that activation happening right now might not love people with big Pisces energy because they're already being so triggered by their Saturn return that they're like, and that's not entirely true, but it only lasts for about 3 years. So,
Only 3 years, y'all.
so for those 3 years, you might be like, I can't stand Pisces people.
Oh.
And then you might be like, okay, I get the pain to pleasure spectrum, and now I love Pisces people. Something like this, does that make sense? Like, that's just
So
an
it does
example of
it
how,
does depend on what time, like where you're at in your
Yes.
life, right? 'Cause,
Yeah.
Like, oh, interesting. Because I often would say, like, me and Rick Dog would not. If I met him any younger
Right.
than I did, like, I just.
maybe you were having a certain
It
transit
would,
at
it
that
would not
time.
have worked
where
out.
it would not-
It was just like we joke about it,
Yeah.
you know, how he just was a different person,
Yeah.
you know, and I was a different person,
Yeah.
you know. So I think timing is key as well.
It
so.
is, yeah. There's
Wonderful.
always an astrological, I think, story or explanation to timing, and Saturn is the planet of time, the lord of time.
The Lord of time.
So, yeah, again, it goes. You could study this stuff for the rest of your entire life and only be like slightly.
Yeah, like what have we? It's already been what, like an
Yeah.
hour? How long have we been doing this now, Rick
Scratching the
Dog?
surface.
Where's the timing at, Rick Dog?
We're like
Producer Rick.
I think
He's in it right now.
I think we have like a.
Producer Rick.
We're at 3.
About a seconds behind her.
Oh, there's a little lag. Okay, got you.
You're about 56, 57.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, cool.
Yes, I usually put a little timer on, so that's, again, forgive me. I forgot to do that. So, but yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure that we kind of like got all the like really like high traffic-y like questions when it comes to like, you know, like the just like the questions that I feel like most people that are into it, but also just don't quite understand it, want to know. But when it comes to starting Jupiter, am I butchering botanical?
No, that's right.
Oh my God, okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I kept saying it wrong. Jupiter Botanical is your business, right?
Yeah.
And you, right now, you have different readings on your, you have clairvoyant astrology readings, and then you have energy readings, right? You have the love reading, and then, so what do you offer? What are the offerings of readings that you can do for everyone? And let us know how we can book you. If you specifically want to know, and Penny can read your chart and everything.
Yeah, so you can go to my site. There's a tab that says intuitive, I think it just says intuitive, and then it says intuitive services. And that's where you'll see all my offerings. I have, everything is a psychic blend. So I do offer one clairvoyant astrology reading where that one is, I'll read your chart and we'll go into everything I just talked about. Like I'll explain to you the houses and specific to you and your big 3 in tropical astrology, and then your big 3 in evolutionary astrology, because that is, you know, one of my main styles of reading, which I find to be super helpful, because I'm like, okay, what are we in this lifetime for? What are we trying to evolve into? That's what evolutionary astrology will tell you, and I'll highlight certain big moments in your chart. Like if you are in your Saturn return, I'll tell you about that. And then there's another half to that specific reading. That's why this reading's at a higher price point, because then I go into a clairvoyant reading at the end of it where you can just ask me questions and I'll just read the energy of the questions. But it's really cool because it's informed by the chart. So
you're getting kind of like 2 readings in one.
Yeah, it's
2 for 1.
Super special, because then I also have a lot more information about your energy, your blueprint. I can speak to the chart in that reading. And then in the other readings, those are all psychic clairvoyant readings. So a reading like that, I like to liken it to like a spa treatment. You don't really have to prepare. You just have to show up and be ready to receive. And maybe we're working out some knots here and there, but ultimately you'll leave feeling lighter and clearer. I'll have my eyes closed. I'll be in meditation for most of it. And I'll be clairvoyantly reading your energy field. So spirit communicates in pictures and colors. So I'll be reading mental picture images that come to me. Everybody's probably like, how do you do that online? So I do them online via Zoom, because with energy, there's no time or space. I mean, that's how we can connect with everyone here on YouTube, and you probably feel super connected to certain people on YouTube. That's because with energy, there's no time or space. So
I love that.
Yeah, a psychic can just read pure energy. So that is the clairvoyant aura reading. I'll go layer by layer through all 7 layers of your aura, which correlate to the chakra system, and reading pictures and colors in that space for you, which ultimately, it's like a deep aura cleanse. It's like a really deep hello to the spirit of you and who you are and what you're handling, mostly in present time. I also like to dismantle the belief that psychics see the future. There are many futures. There's many potential timelines, and we can see those energies, but it's up to your own free will to choose what timeline you want to activate. And a psychic can help you see those, but you already know them. It is already within you. So that's kind of like the fun of being psychic in present time. And then a love reading is specific to your love energy, your heart chakra. So love, affinity, identity. And there's an energy healing incorporated with all of my readings. Those are similar to Reiki, it's just not Reiki. Reiki is specific to Japanese culture. I'm not Japanese. I don't really align with that style of energy healing, but it is really powerful for the people who do love it. I just don't. I think there is a level of like colonization that you have to be careful of in this field as well.
Got you. Like appropriation a little bit?
Appropriation, yeah. Like, who am I to be using Japanese symbols when I've never even been to Japan? I don't,
Honestly, I didn't even know that Reiki was Japanese specific.
Really?
I didn't realize that. Like, I hear it all the time. I'm in a Reiki reading.
Yeah.
But then you go there and it's some blonde white woman from Kansas City or something. You know what I mean? Like, for me, not that there's anything wrong with that, but for me personally, I've always been the type of person where I want to go to the source.
Right.
Like, if I'm going to do a yoga retreat, I want to go to India and do it. You know what I mean?
Same.
Like, if I'm going to, like, there's a level, like you said, of authenticity, but also the appropriation behind, it's a business too, once people kind of feel, like those people, there are people out there that know that they're psychic, know that they have these abilities over people, and they don't use it for good, So it's like, you got to be careful.
You got to be careful sometimes. And I think if you're interested in like knowing what resonates for you, I would say don't try to jump so far ahead of yourself right away. Like, let the information integrate. Like, I did study Reiki, and then I realized this isn't for me. It's not, it doesn't actually, I don't feel right practicing this. But it is, you have to honor the lineage and where it comes from, I think. So
yes.
Anyways, there's energy healing incorporated in mine, which is, I just work with colors, with healing energy colors, and I read your specific spirit and what your energy wants to work with. And if some of your spirit guides would like to come in, I call them in if they would like to be a part of the healing and bring in energy updates, things like this.
So if you have maybe like an ancestor that's passed to the next, life.
Exactly.
You can maybe tap in with an ancestor. So I know that's beautiful because a lot of us probably are dealing with a lot of grief, especially at the times, and grief is huge. It's grief is almost like it's almost tangible, right? Like your grief can be so big, and so that might be a beautiful way to kind of
clear grief,
move through it. So.
I think that and there's stages of grief, and it's a very normal experience to have grief, especially right now. It's like very thick in the collective energy field. We're living in a climate of grief, but
truly
psychic and energy readers can help you move through it to get back into your own energy. It's ultimately about getting back into your own energy so that you can, do what you came here to do. What is that?
What's your purpose?
What's that blueprint?
What are you supposed to be here? Like, I feel like we are ultimately put on this planet to serve a purpose, right?
I think so too,
What's your purpose? So, That was so beautiful, guys. Like, isn't Penny amazing? So where can they find you if they want to book you? What's your website?
It's jupiterbotanical.com, botanical, no S. Everyone wants to say,
Botanicals.
no, everyone wants to say Jupiter Botanicals, but there's no S. Jupiter, like the planet, botanical.com, and you can find, I'm also on Instagram at Jupiter Botanical. And you'll see a booking button on Instagram or on my site. You can book straight through my site. And in this studio, it's kind of more spontaneous at the moment in terms of like what I offer here. There's workshops, I teach classes. My next cohort will be in the spring, like May. I haven't launched the date yet, but I was doing one-to-ones, private mentorship, and I love doing group classes. But in Chicago, it's better like in the spring when it's warm and everybody wants to like actually get out of their house.
Yeah.
So I love teaching privates. If anybody is interested in learning how to activate, intellectualize their own psychic abilities, best to learn from a Gemini who has collected all the data. Gemini rising, Pisces sun.
Right. Yeah. And so can I just also, do you think that so it kind of like you kind of said it, but not said it, like how your rising is more important, not more important, but like it's more of the identity as opposed to the sun, right? Like your rising.
It's both.
It's both?
It's both, but they're both important.
Okay.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of people out there who don't know their birth time, so that means that they probably don't know their rising sign. But it doesn't mean that you're any, less important to not know. Like your sun sign is really powerful. That's how you shine in the world. That's your life force. That's how you radiate. That's your identity. But the rising is like your body. It's your vibe. It's
how the world sees you.
It's how the world sees you. Well, no, your moon is how you see yourself.
How you see yourself. Okay, that's right.
It's your internal self.
Okay.
So I think it's all important, but most astrologers these days are reading from the rising because it resonates on the body level. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Wow. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I know, like literally, she can talk all day about this world. It's her expertise. Like, you lived it. It's been something that's been following you from your family when you were young till now. So, yeah, if you guys want to set up a reading, go hit her up. But before we let you go, we want to do meditate, masturbate, medicate with Penny today. If you're new to the show, if you're new to my platform, this is the wellness segment of the show where we kind of get to know our guests on a more playful level too. We can kind of have it can be as fun as we want, it can be as deep as we want, it can be as whatever. But meditate, masturbate, medicate. We'll just choose. She'll get to choose 1, 2, or 3, or if not all, of the 3 pillars, and then we'll dive deeper into like those 3 pillars and just in a category of that, whether it'll be me asking a question or if you're like, hey, I want to talk about this, so.
Okay.
So yeah, meditate, masturbate, medicate, Penny. What are we talking about?
I think meditation kind of covers all of them.
So meditate, but then you're saying it's going to tap in a little bit into maybe medicate, a little bit to masturbate.
Yeah, because meditating to me is like medication. The meditation is the medication, and then it also
is a shirt right there.
Yeah, and it also
that's your shirt. That's your merch.
It's your merch. It's like so. I love it, but it also like when I learned all the psychic studies, it's through meditation. Like you activate your psychic abilities through meditating, which is also like turns you on. It's like
meditation.
Yeah.
Meditation turns you on. It doesn't turn me on.
What kind of meditating are you doing?
It's so hard for me to meditate.
Really?
I do it, but I don't do it I don't have I go through ebbs and flows and seasons of meditation.
Well, I do an active meditation where it's like a visualization meditation. So it actually is very Jupiter botanical. It's about grounding to the earth, the very core center of the earth, and connecting with earth energy, and then also calling in cosmic energy. So it's like this blend and activation for you to sort of be the bridge of the earth and the cosmos. And for me, I mean, I don't know, that just turned me on.
She was like, wait a minute, that did it for me.
But also like dancing with Kimbo is the best.
Oh,
I mean, that's definitely my favorite way of feeling turned on is through dance. But it becomes a meditation.
Listen, movement is definitely meditation, absolutely. And I feel as if that is a huge part of me and how I process a lot of my feelings. A lot of like it could be meditative. It's therapeutic for me, movement, and telling stories.
Yeah.
Like I love telling stories through movement and kind of taking people on a journey a little bit.
Yeah.
So for you with meditation, what are you doing? Like when you're gonna meditate, do you ever go to a quiet spot, set up like any sort of like sound bath, something like, what do you do? Like, what's your
usually
vibe?
I just like sit somewhere, often with my feet on the ground. Sometimes I'll be laying down, and then I like to go into visualizations. So I love working with, like I said, colors, earth energy, like literally visualizing this healthy, soil coming through your legs, your feet, and bringing in healthy earth energy into your body. I also lived in Mexico for 5 years, and I miss the jungle all the time. So I visualize my whole room being a jungle.
Oh, I do that. I want to be like in a jungle. Like, I want to be just plants all the fuck around me.
I'll visualize all that, and then suddenly you're kind of transported there, and that's when you start feeling really good. That's how I think meditation is both medication and masturbation in some way.
Really?
It turns you on. I mean, it's not like
Do you climax from your meditation? Have you climaxed from your meditation?
That's a funny question. I mean,
girl, if you have, what is the secret?
That's what some Tantra teachers do.
I studied that in Australia a little bit.
You did?
Yeah, I went through a tantric sex journey.
Right? And it's about holding the energy.
Yeah, the bandha, breathe it in, hold, and it kind of again, that's rooted in your
so you can.
Muladhara, your
root chakra.
Root chakra, Which is for me, I feel that, and definitely my pelvis, my clit, whatever. Weirdly, I have this weird tie between one of my feet and my sexual energy. It's weird.
That makes sense.
Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Really strange. One random spot on my foot is just someone will massage it or whatever, and I'll just be like, oh, whoa, it's a weird feeling. So.
Well, it's all connected. So yeah, for me, it's all meditation.
It's all meditation.
I think. I mean, I don't smoke weed anymore, but I used to.
Oh yeah, so when it comes to cannabis, what's your journey with cannabis? I mean, we are a really cannabis-friendly show. We're smoking right now. Your journey started super early.
Started really young, and therefore I grew out of it pretty early on as well. But it's definitely a healing plant, and my mom taught me that.
Yeah, did your parents indulge?
My mom, my sister and I, caught her smoking, and she was just like, this is an herb. It comes from the earth. And that's all I needed to hear, and I was like, all right, got it. Makes sense. But I did truly understand what she meant, because it got me through some really hard times in my life. To me, cannabis is like an old friend. You can come back to it, but
I love that.
Yeah, nowadays if I smoke, I just want to be alone.
Okay.
Maybe meditating. I get too much anxiety in social settings now, and I think it's because the meditation can get you naturally high.
You did say that. You were like, I don't need to smoke. I can get there on my own. I was like, really?
I feel like I'm naturally high now because of meditating. So the cannabis is it's too much for me. Also, whatever they're doing to cannabis these days is too much for me. I like the old school flower. Just give me some.
She let me some of that mid over there, Give me some of that mid over there.
Give me something
mid. I mean, listen, the weed has definitely changed.
It is lit, and it's way too much for me.
It's low key crack, okay?
Right. So
the way that these things are growing now.
That's my journey. I can't even remember, and like I said, I'll come back to it sometimes, but it's much more few and far between.
I love the old friend.
It's like an old friend.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
What about shrooms or psilocybin or anything like that? Do you indulge? How do you feel about it?
I again, it's from time to time. I think microdosing can really do something for you if you have your space with it and you don't let it, like a psychic, you don't let it have power over you.
That's so.
Don't ever let a psychic have power over you. Don't ever let
Wow.
a drug have power over you.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Because that's very true. Like if you let that vice, whatever it really is,
yeah.
right, take
It's not
over.
a
You could be
drug.
alcohol, it could be sugar.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah. So I do think it can help. It can be a good collaborator with
Okay.
whatever you're trying to move through. But I can't say I do it regularly,
Okay.
but I have.
You have.
Yeah.
You had like a big trip and everything.
Yeah, in my life I have had it, but I don't
Okay.
do it often
don't do it
because I'm really sensitive in general. So yeah.
What about like ashwagandha? What about like?
Yeah, I love herbs.
What
Like,
about? Oh, that's not what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the other thing.
Oh, Damiana.
What's that?
Oh.
Don't know that one.
I told you about it.
What's that one?
Damiana is an herb that is native to Mexico that is all about enhancing your sexual energy and your
I need to know more about
your
this.
libido.
Really?
It's like a natural aphrodisiac and heart opener. It's yeah. They grow it also in California, and cacao is also a heart opener. So yeah, I'm more like on that herbal
Okay.
vibe
I
now.
need to know more about that.
Yeah,
What's it again?
it's called Damiana.
Damiana. Okay.
Yeah.
I was referring to ayahuasca. That's what I couldn't.
Ayahuasca. Oh.
How do you feel about it?
Um,
Ayahuasca is another.
Yeah.
Whatever. What is ayahuasca? It's like is it a plant
it's
or is
plant medicine.
Plant medicine?
Is what people call it. It's a root bark from native to South America, but they grow it also in Mexico. And again, with this kind of thing, my biggest problem with it is like the capitalization on it. Like personally, I believe that these plants have spirits, and I don't know if they want to be uprooted from where they are and being brought to, white spaces so these people can be like tripping out.
Interesting.
And then I really don't like how people rely on it, and they're like, the medicine has the answers. I don't believe in that. I think it's more like you will get some answers from it, and then it's like, what do you want to do with that? I don't think you should always be going back to it for more.
Yeah, there are people that are like doing it a lot and just like what's your intention behind?
Right, and also it blows open your chakras, and I think that's like too much. Some people might need it, but I don't think anyone needs it all the time. I do believe shamans that go through shamanic trainings are actually like, I've heard that they have to go like through long ayahuasca initiations. Which that's a calling. If you have that calling, then you're in that initiation path, and you're getting to know the plant on a really intimate level. But you have to be, I think, committed to really communicating with the spirit of it and the root of it, where it's from, and not just taking. There's something about honoring the truth of where it is. I did it once in Mexico. It was grown in Mexico. It was a female shaman, and traditionally it's done 3 days in a row. I only did 1 day. It was pretty mild. I had a beautiful talk with the moon and with myself. And I think one of the most beautiful parts of it was just really feeling and hearing myself like so loud and clear. It felt like, yes, the purge happened and all this, but
The purge meaning like
you purge when you do ayahuasca.
you throw up. Yeah.
You throw up like demons or things that entities have been hanging on.
Yeah.
That's real. Like you're like, okay, but I can't say that it was that I like needed again or that I even like necessarily loved it. It was pretty gentle. I could communicate with it really clearly. Like I felt it going through my chakra system. It happens 3 days in a row traditionally because it works usually the first 3 chakras and then the next 3 and then the next 3 in the days. I was good after one day. I was like, I get it.
Well,
I get it.
I'm happy you actually shared.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your
Yeah.
personal story, because you didn't have to. You know, obviously this is all personal. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I appreciate that, because I've never done it. I've been curious myself, and just also just in a sense of like people's experiences with it. But yeah, I mean, thank you. Penny.
Yeah,
I feel like we're
thank
kind
you.
of running
Oh, yeah.
a little low on everything, so I
This
think
is
that
the book that my dad
the
introduced
book.
me to when I was like between 8 and 10 years old. So it's just like old school vintage astrology book, like
is it?
super old.
Oh, okay, your horoscope and your dreams.
Yeah.
Cute.
But yeah. This was kind of like,
That's beautiful though. 'Cause it's got like some patina. It's got some natural like love and wear and tear on it. So like you could just
child
tell.
of a Leo. Like it was really in depth. It is really in depth.
Oh, that's
Venus
really
in
cool.
Aquarius. Like this is what I was getting into when I was like 8.
8 years old. So.
So thank you, Dad. I actually got a
Yeah.
tattoo of that. So.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So
Well, I mean, I feel so full from your the conversation we've had. Like, I feel like, you know, I've learned so much from you, but also like a lot of clarity that was there of certain things, like questions about, you know, astrology. And I hope that the listeners can also co-sign and be like, hey, like, oh my God, that's great that she cleared that up or whatever. And if you have any more questions, again, you can reach out to Penny at jupiterbotanical.com, or you can actually book readings with her. And again, she can kind of guide you through any sort of journey when it comes to astrology, psychic abilities, mentorship. Also, you're beautiful. I mean, your
Flowers.
aesthetic.
Yeah.
She's a floral artist and does these amazing, like she worked on like, the other day we were working on like.
I like to do like editorial and set design, but I also take on a few weddings a year and a couple events for floral. And yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so happy that we were doing that. Because Penny's about to be like, bitch, I'm out of here. I'm about to go to Mexico for a little. Like,
trying, yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, listen, this is like, that's what we always like connected onto, was the explore, the travel.
Yes.
Like we needed that. So I was really happy that we found the time to sit down and do this right now. And
I've given like thousands of readings, by the way, just so.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's
just
your?
so you know, I've like.
She's been doing this, y'all.
Yeah, I've been doing it since 2012, so well over
2012? Okay.
Yeah, well over 10,000 readings for sure.
Well, damn.
Like,
okay.
If we're combining the schooling, and then I've worked for apps as well, psychic apps, and then my own personal ones. So I'm very grounded in the industry, that's for sure.
So if you have questions, she can answer, I'm sure. So. Again, thank you, Penny.
Thank you so much.
This was so great. Thank you for doing Meditate,
Yes.
Medicate with us. Thank you for being here. Thank you for using the space. Your cat Dorado did not come out. We were hoping that her
he's
kitty
here.
cat would come out and say hi to y'all. But it's okay. He's a little shy right now. But thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to us, Kimbology Podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, all the things, Facebook. Stay connected. We're trying to do many more things this year when it comes to the podcast and have these awesome conversations with amazing individuals like Penny. And yeah, I'm just so happy to kind of like, be a part of your journey. And yeah, thank you so much. And we're gonna get the fuck out of here.
Thank
Do you want
you.
anything you want to leave the people with though, Penny? Anything you want to leave the people with?
I think I've said enough.
There you go. I'm gonna leave the people with Free Palestine.
Yeah,
There we
I like
go.
that.
That's it. All right, everyone. I'll see you next time. Bye. And TikTok's still running.
You are now listening to Kimbology.
Kimbo, aka the traveling